Welcome to a special edition of Home Care Connection, a show brought to you by the Rutland Area Visiting Nurse Association and Hospice. We're excited today to bring you a show from PEG TV's kitchen stage. Many people don't know that in addition to the nurses, therapists, and aides that work at the Rutland Area VNA and Hospice, we also have a dietitian on staff, in fact, a registered dietitian on staff, to help our patients with their nutritional needs. Kelsey Gero, RAVNAH's registered dietitian, is here today. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So Kelsey, you work with our patients to make sure that they're getting the nutrients that they need in order to maintain a good quality of life, in order to maintain good health, or certainly, again, maintain a good health. And so what we'd like to do is just talk a little bit about your role. And you work with really patients of all ages with us,
Yep.
primarily adults, right?
Yes.
So stay with us, because we are going to not only be talking about nutrition, but also to give you some great tips on eating healthy. And as this is a new year, it will get you off to a good start. So, as I said, you work with primarily our adult population, probably age 18 and above.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about sort of, it says something like, how much does the old adage, you are what you eat, ring true?
It does ring true in some ways.
Okay.
There's kind of two ways of eating. A lot of people go for the quick and easy types of meals, a lot of processed foods, like fast food, takeout, restaurant kind of stuff. And those foods tend to be higher in salt, added sugars, fats, more of the bad stuff, so to speak.
Yes.
The other way to eat is a more healthy, balanced diet, high in fruits and vegetables, dairy, lean sources of protein, and so on. And so for those that are eating more of the processed foods, they're at a much higher risk for getting all types of chronic diseases, especially linked with being overweight or obese, and
Sure.
that might be high blood pressure or diabetes or
Yeah.
heart disease. So it definitely relates to what could happen.
And to that end, when you're working with patients from RAVNAH, more often than not, there is already some sort of underlying health issue.
Yeah.
So that sort of processed food formula maybe is even further exacerbated by
Definitely.
the pre-existing health conditions.
Right.
All right, so as we age, our physical and our lifestyles change. And so as we age, how does those changes in our activity affect, or rather I should say, how do those changes affect our ability to make good choices about food?
So as we age, we naturally are prone to getting other diseases or having some sort of debilitating factor in a sense, which might make us change the way we eat as far as how our appetite is.
Oh, okay.
We might be on more medications, which can interfere with appetite, can increase it or decrease it. We might be on a dietary restriction, so if you have high blood pressure, you might need to have a lower salt diet. As we get into the older years, we also are at risk for having trouble chewing or swallowing, and might require changing the consistency and texture of our foods.
Yeah.
Might develop intolerances to certain foods. A problem with older adults is often lactose intolerance, and trying to find ways to make sure you're still getting the right nutrients without causing any upset, that kind of thing.
And that's actually interesting, because I think that people don't realize that as they age, foods that never bothered them throughout their lives can actually start to have different impacts on them. So the reality is, and I think you touched on it a little bit before, as we age, certain foods can have a direct impact on our health. Salts in particular, right? And are there sort of some usual suspects when it comes to where real health issues can lie with respect to whether it's salt, sugar, something like that, or is there?
Yeah, it's definitely individual,
Okay.
and there's not a good foods to eat, foods to avoid, for,
Okay.
you know,
Yep.
a chart to
Sure.
follow for every person. But in general, you know, trying to stay away from as many processed foods as you can.
Okay.
And having a diet that's rich in whole or fresh foods. So, you know, there's something called My Plate, which is the USDA dietary guidelines for
Yep.
Americans, and it basically focuses on making half your plate fresh fruit and vegetables, or a type of fruit and vegetable, a quarter
Yep.
of that starch and a quarter protein, and
Oh,
then
okay.
a serving of dairy, if
Yep.
you know that works for you. And that's just kind of a very generalized way to think about it, but just making sure that each meal you're getting all those types of servings.
Yeah.
It's really going to help you get all the important nutrients that you need. And by following that kind of method, you're going to stay away from the foods that are high in salt and fat and sugar. That may contribute to chronic disease.
Okay, and I think that's an important point to sort of jump off on, because there are nutritional problems that can impact adults and older adults as well. Can you explain maybe what some of those complications are as it relates to dietary choices?
Like what conditions might?
Yeah, yeah,
So kind of like we already touched on with like the diabetes
Yes.
and hypertension and
Yep.
heart disease, and then, you know, trouble chewing or swallowing, having a decreased appetite and weight loss is the other side of things.
Oh, okay.
And making sure that a person gets enough protein to kind of sustain their existing muscles.
Yep.
And, you know, if they're weakened from a disease or a recent surgery, or just having something that's, you know, complicated their normal energy level, making sure that they're getting enough of all the things they need.
And you know, it's interesting. I've heard some of my mother is 94, and when she goes out with her friends, a lot of them don't eat very much. In fact, they'll order lunch, and almost all of them will go home with a doggy bag. I hear a lot of times my mother and her friends talking about the fact that, you know, that they don't eat, their appetite isn't what it used to be.
Right.
Is that a sort of common?
Yeah, well, as we get older, our bodies need less calories
Yeah.
than we do when we're younger. You know, oftentimes we're moving less, and so what I usually recommend for a variety of my patients and clients is small, frequent meals throughout the day.
Okay.
That helps to kind of stimulate the appetite and not overwhelm them with too much food.
That's good.
Kind of like keep it, you know,
Yeah.
keep a constant energy level.
Okay, and not only that, but I would think that if my appetite is less, it makes it that much more important for me to make wise choices about the types of food I eat, because if I just go for the easy way out, like you said earlier, processed foods and stuff like that, then all I'm going to be getting are these sort of bad nutrients, as opposed to what I might be able to get if I'm eating
Right.
better. You said earlier there isn't a sort of formula or a perfect sort of what you should, but are there foods that generally should be avoided? Is it just sort of processed foods that are high in salt and sugar and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, you think of your typical fast food restaurants like
Yeah.
McDonald's
Yes.
and, I don't know, all those kinds of places. And
Yeah.
certainly my philosophy is everything in moderation. So if you're
Yeah.
really craving a cheeseburger, the longer you tell yourself you can't have it, the more you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
So if you give in and, you know, satisfy those cravings once in a while, then you're probably doing the right thing versus cutting it out completely. But at the same time, you know, just making sure that you make room for that. So if you know that you're going to be going out to a dinner where you're going to eat really heavily and probably indulge in high fat,
Yes.
high salt foods, you know, at the beginning of the day at breakfast and lunch, you can kind of make up for that by making sure you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables
Yeah.
and cutting back on the other stuff.
And in fact, when we talk about foods that we might be eating more of, it would be fresh fruit and vegetables.
And whole grains.
Whole grains, right.
Low fat or fat-free dairy,
Yeah.
lean sources of protein, so whether that be meat or poultry or fish or eggs, yeah, nuts, those kinds of things.
Right. Okay, so what are some of the barriers that might contribute to let's say our patients
Yeah.
not getting adequate nutrition?
There's a few different types of barriers. A lot of our patients are homebound, and their ability to get up and do things is definitely limited. A lot of times they have a great support system that can help get, you know, healthy meals ready for them. But in cases where they don't have that, they're often eligible for something called Meals on Wheels, which, you know, it's a great home delivery service that provides a healthy meal with fruits and vegetables and protein and everything.
It is a balanced meal, right?
It's a balanced meal. And then there's other food nutrition programs like congregate meals and different things to provide access to those foods. And then the other complications are just, you know, like we said before, decreased appetite and not wanting to eat very much. And
Now, you brought with you, we actually have some visual, aids for our viewing public today. You brought some foods with you.
Yes.
Did you not?
I did.
And those foods were designed to be able to give our viewers an opportunity to see some healthy choices for food. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a walk over here on our moving set and talk about the foods that might make up a healthy day's choices for any, and this again, this is really for people of all ages, is it not?
Right. General population.
So if you would, just follow us over here to the dining area, and you will see a rather attractive, and I will say this is an attractive group of foods that have
colorful,
been prepared here.
right?
Yeah. And I think it points to the fact that not only is eating healthy a good thing because we get our nutrients, but it also can be, it is quite appealing looking as well.
Yes.
So processed foods, you know, do have a tendency to sort of not have the same kind of luster as a home-cooked meal.
Yes, and it is known that fruits and vegetables that are richer in color have more nutrients, so that's always a good rule to go by too.
Right, right. Like they talk about having like the dark green vegetables and things like that. Right, right.
Yeah.
So what you did, was prepare basically sort of options for a day's worth of meals.
Yeah, so there's about 3 different options for each for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
All right.
And then a couple of snack choices.
So why don't we? They say that breakfast is breakfast the most important meal of the day?
I definitely encourage breakfast.
Okay.
It's, you know, people that skip breakfast, oftentimes it's because they don't feel hungry in the morning, or maybe they want to save calories or whatnot. But really, your body needs some sort of fuel to get you going and focus. And they've done all kinds of studies where, like, kids in school score higher on exams if they eat breakfast versus those that don't. And it's just a good way to kind of get your body going for the day and set the tone.
Because it does create, as you eat, you digest, and as you digest, your metabolism does increase.
And your brain needs something called glucose to function, and glucose is just a fancier word for sugar in a sense.
Good.
So in order to get that going, you got to eat something.
Okay, so then with breakfast being, if not the most important meal, certainly an important meal, why don't we talk about what you brought for breakfast?
So there's 3 different options here. The first one in the front is a whole grain English muffin topped with peanut butter and half of an orange. Peanut butter is a great source of protein. It's filling. It's going to make a difference compared to putting just butter or jam.
Sure.
You're going to feel that, that you're more full for a couple hours. The second option is a whole grain cereal.
Okay.
You could either pour milk on it, or you could mix it into, I like to do a Greek yogurt with fruit and cereal. It's a bit more filling than just milk and cereal.
Yep.
And the Greek yogurt is much higher in protein than other yogurts. And it's generally fat-free, so that's, and it's a great source of calcium and vitamin D, which we need for our bone strength and all that.
And that's true throughout our lives.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yep. This last one in the back is a veggie omelet.
Wow.
You can see the colors. And it's kind of rare that people get a serving of vegetables in their breakfast meal. So if you can, then
that's a good point. That's true. I mean, I think that much more likely would be a cereal type choice. But one of the things it sounds like you're stressing at breakfast time is protein.
Yes.
And if peanut butter as opposed to butter, peanut butter does have protein. Butter not really so much, right?
And butter and peanut butter both have natural fat in them, but peanut butter has a healthy type of fat, and with the protein, it's just going to be more satisfying, where if you ate an English muffin with butter, you'd probably be hungry within an hour or two.
Yes.
Peanut butter might tie you over for a little longer.
And that does seem to be the case, that diets that are high in carbohydrates and low in protein tend to be, you tend to eat more because they don't sustain your hunger for very long.
Definitely.
Okay, so now is there, these three breakfast options all would be considered to be healthy?
Yes.
I noticed that there's no butter on the toast. Is that by design, or?
There could be butter on it.
Oh, okay.
Margarine or butter, or even peanut butter or jam if you wanted to.
Okay. So there is I think the point is that there is a lot of options. Breakfast is an important meal. If it has some protein in it, then we're sort of getting our bodies off to the right start for the day, getting our mind
And it doesn't have to be a complicated meal either.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people go for a donut or a bagel with cream cheese because it's easy to take on the go, but it's just as easy to take an English muffin or bringing cereal and milk to work or something like that. It doesn't have to be as hard as people think it might be.
And so now we have a lunch that you've prepared, or actually, again, lunch options.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about what our lunch options are?
Yes. So in the front we have roasted deli turkey with some veggies.
Yeah.
And it's in a whole wheat pita. So it's a good source of whole grain, protein. You could add some avocado as like a healthy source of fat, or even some low-fat cheese.
Yeah.
And then the apple slices, just to get another serving of fruit in there, fiber,
Yeah.
a little sweetness.
Yeah. Is there a recommended, I mean, is there fruits, I mean, should I be trying to have fruit in my diet? I mean, is it?
Yeah, they say like 2 to 3 servings of fruit per day, and then 3 to 5 servings of vegetables. So again, it's kind of based on the individual, but as a general rule of thumb.
Yeah. And again, does it matter what type of fruit? Is it?
Well, the serving matters. A serving of fruit is half a cup, so that might be a half a cup of chopped up fruit, half of a medium-sized banana.
Okay.
For dried fruit, it's a smaller serving, but so yeah, like 3 half cups throughout the day.
So that's not a lot, though, really. I mean, that's very, very manageable. And if somebody has an apple and a banana, they've pretty much covered the gamut for what they might need for the day. Okay. Good. So, all right. So we have a very tasty-looking pita bread. What else do we have?
So then we have a sweet potato with some black beans, corn, and roasted veggies on top.
That looks particularly tasty, by the way.
I know, right? So you see all the color. And then you have the option of topping it with salsa if you prefer, or even a little bit of fat-free sour cream, or Greek yogurt can also be used in place of sour cream.
Yeah.
You could even do a little cheese on it if you wanted. Basically, it's something easy, and you can put whatever you like on it.
Right. Yeah.
And sweet potato is a great source of fiber. The orange means it's high in beta-carotene, vitamin A, that type of thing. It's a little bit better for you than a white potato might be.
Yep.
And it's a different type of flavor. So.
Yeah.
And that's something that really doesn't have to be that hard. You could make it at dinner and bring it the next day as your leftover lunch.
Well, and one of the things that appears to be true about everything that we've talked about so far, and we have a bit more to look at, is that really a lot of this stuff doesn't require a tremendous amount of preparation. They are fairly simple foods.
Right.
Good. And all right, so we have the stuffed baked potato, and we have a couple of another option here as well.
So salad. You can see all the different types of greens, topped with some roasted almonds, a little bit of goat cheese, onions, and really whatever vegetable you like, you can throw into a salad. Again, I encourage protein, so the nuts are a good source of protein, but you can also do some grilled chicken or tuna or tofu or whatever type of protein you enjoy. And as far as dressing goes, usually a vinaigrette is kind of the best choice. The creamier dressings can be loaded with extra stuff.
And sugar. And
But there are some healthy options out there. You know, most companies make a lower fat version of everyone's favorite dressing, so you can find something you like.
Well, and again, I think, you know, what we're seeing here is that each of these options, there's a good amount of nutrients. We have, they're balanced. There's not too much of any one thing. And would you consider what the foods that we looked at so far to be reasonable, like portion size-wise?
Yeah, definitely. And even with a salad, you could have like a piece of bread or some sort of carbohydrate source, you know, just.
Well, and I noticed also that you have been recommending whole wheat breads, whether it was the English muffin or the pita or the bread. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, whole grain products. So with bread, you want to look for whole wheat flour on the food as the first ingredient.
Okay.
If it says wheat flour, that doesn't mean the same as whole wheat flour, so that's important to know.
Yeah.
And the benefit of a whole wheat product compared to a non-whole grain product is the fiber.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fiber's good.
Fiber is good to help keep you full,
Yes.
keeps your digestive system intact, and also with whole grain products, the B vitamins are in there naturally, where refined products, they have to add all that stuff back in after because it's lost in the milling process.
Oh,
so.
okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's just a more natural, healthier option to go with.
Yeah, and again, I think it's important for folks to understand that the more whole grain, the more homemade, the less sort of processing that has to go into the foods that we eat, the more naturally occurring the nutrients will be in those foods.
Right.
Which again, probably makes them easier to digest, and as well as probably is a more efficient way for our bodies to use those nutrients.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good. All right, well, you know, I don't think a day's meals would be complete without dinner.
That's right.
Because maybe dinner may not be the most important meal of the day, but certainly is usually my favorite meal of the day. So perhaps you can tell us about what we have for dinner, although actually we may even have a little surprise after dinner, so let's talk about what dinner is.
So the first option happens to be my personal favorite food, pizza.
Absolutely.
And it's made with a whole grain crust, topped with crushed tomatoes and a little bit of tomato sauce, and then a whole bunch of veggies and some low-fat mozzarella cheese. You could certainly do like a white pizza if you're not into tomato sauce, with some olive oil and garlic, and again, whatever toppings you like. For meat lovers, there's, you know, some lower fat options like turkey pepperoni or sausage, turkey sausage or something like that. But those products tend to be higher in salt, but again, everything in moderation. So, and then having a side salad makes it more of a complete meal.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, with the pizza, it's a tough one because you know, if you don't have whole grain crust, I mean, this pizza was made by hand at home.
You can buy whole grain crust already prepared, or the dough already prepared. So it makes it easier because not everyone has time to make a homemade dough. It's a process.
Yes.
So
No, so
and
again, and pizza is always a safe option. I don't know many people who don't like pizza.
Yeah.
And what else do we have here? Everything here looks so good.
So we have an Italian soup that has white beans in it, some greens. We used kale, but you could also use some Swiss chard or even spinach. There's some carrots in there. It's made with a chicken broth.
Yeah.
And there's chicken in it, but the chicken can be optional.
Right.
Because the white beans serve as a protein source.
Right. Yeah, this is a very high protein.
Yeah, it's delicious and has great flavor.
Yeah.
You could top it with a little Parmesan cheese if you wanted to.
Very good.
And maybe have, a small roll with it to dip in.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have a final dinner option.
Stir fry is also one of my favorites. It's really easy to make. You can, again, choose any vegetable you want.
Right.
Any source of protein: chicken, beef, pork, tofu, whatever you prefer. And then I usually cook it over brown rice or brown pasta.
Yeah.
And you can put in whatever flavors you like: pepper, garlic. You can do some teriyaki, whatever you prefer. And you can just mix it all up real quick. Put it in the freezer to have at another time.
Yeah, and again, and in this, I noticed you said brown rice, so again, we're really, there's a high stress on whole grain because a lot of people talk about, and especially some diabetic patients clearly have concerns about counting carbs, but there really are good carbs and bad carbs, right?
Right.
And whole grain carbs tend to be better because
your blood breaks it down slower.
Okay. Yeah.
So that it kind of makes your blood sugar go up slower.
And that's why the fiber in carbs is good, because it extends the amount of time, right? I have a, which is important because the carbs that, if they break down too quickly, they basically turn into sugar, which more often than not will just turn into fat. Is that sort of?
Well, yeah, and it'll spike your blood sugar up,
Yeah.
and if you're one that has diabetes or whatever,
Yes.
there's concern for that. So.
Okay. So really, and again, in each meal, there does seem to be a fairly well-rounded assortment of carbs and proteins, and that is an important part, and fat. And again, all of fat, carbs, protein, there really is, it is important for all of those to be part of. It's not so much that you don't want fat, or you don't want
carbs,
right. It's that
your body needs, those are the 3 nutrients that
Yes.
contain calories, and your body needs all of them to do its day-to-day functions.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then we did, in addition to the 3 meals that we made for today, you also brought us in some very healthy snack options, and maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what those snack options are.
Well, for snack time, it can be really easy to grab a bag of chips or a candy bar or something like that. That's way more convenient, but that's just kind of a downfall for salt and sodium, or in sugar and everything like that. So there's a wide variety of healthy snacks you can choose from.
Okay.
I put out some of my favorites. So we have a half of a banana sliced up with peanut butter.
Yeah, that's always a favorite.
Yeah. We have some apples with some vanilla Greek yogurt to dip in.
Okay.
And then we have a plate of veggies with some hummus. And hummus is a blend of chickpeas with sesame oil and some other herbs and spices. And it's packed with protein. So, again, getting that protein in.
and again, in each of these meals, and even with the snacks, I mean, these are things that can easily be prepared. I mean, we sliced the banana, but really, I could just as easily have the banana and the peanut butter and simply eat them, again, especially if I'm the only one in the house eating it. I have no reason why I can't eat it out of the jar.
Right.
And the apple and yogurt, I mean, these are, they're fruits for the most part. The apples and yogurt, the vegetables, they have a reasonably decent shelf life if they're in your refrigerator. If you buy them when you go for your weekly shopping, you would have them for the week. They're healthy snacks. Certainly much better than potato chips, things like that, popcorn, which really have very little nutritional value, right? And only really a lot of salt.
And another easy thing you can do is chop things up ahead of time. Like, at the end of the day, if you have the time to kind of prepare things and put them in Ziploc bags so that you can just grab them on your way to work or school or whatever you might have to do that day. Or just if you're at home and don't want to take the effort to make something up, then it's already there. It's easier to make a healthy choice when it's already ready. So.
And that's an important piece in this too, is that a lot of these meals can be prepared in advance and then just cooked as needed. They do have that ability. Certainly, again, the baked potato, if you have a jar of peanut butter certainly seems to be a good household item to have for a whole bunch of reasons.
Right.
Whether it's breakfast or just a healthy snack during the day.
Right.
We are, I can't believe it, but just about out of time. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show and for preparing all of these wonderful, nutritious meals. I'd like to thank you all for joining us here at the PEG TV kitchen. I hope you found our show to be informational and educational, giving you some opportunity to see healthy options for eating in the cold winter months, and even once it starts getting nicer out. These are foods that will sustain us. They are foods that give us a good balance of the type of nutrients that we need to stay healthy at any age.
Yes.
At any age. So thank you for joining us on Home Care Connection. I'm Harry Snyder, and we'll see you next time.